Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Moz House podcast. This is episode 2. I'm here with Yanyan Huang, which I you said that properly. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your art?
Oh, hi. Hi, Hunter. My art, I begin with, I guess, an emotion and research. Um, so I explore feelings and thoughts that are deep within my imagination, but also like the recesses of my psychology. And then I try to learn more about where that feeling comes from. Um, and then I start drawing, and that turns into painting. Um, and then I work with color, and then somehow the colors battle it out uh, against each other on the page, and that turns into paintings, um, which I then turn into printed textiles and clothing.
Very cool. I have a new appreciation for painting because for the
Awesome.
alumni show, actually, I wanted to make a piece, and
Oh.
I decided to make some spray painting art, like some
Hmm.
graffiti art, and it was much harder than I thought it was going to be. Yeah,
Well,
definitely,
thank
definitely.
you. Thank you for saying that, because I mean, I know everyone looks at it and is like, "Oh, I could do that," or my kid or my dog or my, I don't know, chimpanzee could do that. But then when it actually comes down to it, like, it is pretty difficult.
Yeah, it never comes out how I picture. I'm like,
I
oh man, this is gonna be
know,
so
same,
good, and
same.
then yeah, it's always
And
slightly
I've been
askew
doing it for
somewhere.
like 15 years, and I've I've had teachers who have been doing it all their lives, and they still have the same struggles. Um, it I would imagine that after like decades of practice that it becomes easier, but you're changing, the world is changing, the way you think and feel about things is constantly changing. So it probably doesn't get easier.
You just get more used to not being a perfectionist. At
Yes,
least that's for me.
that's a great way
Um,
to put it.
okay, well, you were actually our first artist in residence here, so
Yes.
I was wondering, how did you find out about Ma's house? Did Jeremy find you? Did you like see what was going on beforehand, and then
Yeah,
contact us?
it was a little bit of both. So during COVID, I was in Manhattan, and then I escaped to upstate and then Long Island for, I don't know, it feels like forever, but I think it was a total of a year and a half. And I never stayed alone in the woods um, for so long before, and not by myself. So it was like a process of learning to live in nature, learning to do the very basics for myself, like things that I've always taken for granted, like cooking, for example, or like buying groceries, or
Hmm.
not that I've never bought groceries, but
You
um
can't just walk downstairs and go up the block and get them
I
anymore.
know, right? Like you can't order it to the middle of the woods.
True.
Um Yeah, so all these things, and I was in Shinnecock, or well, I was in Southampton, and a friend of mine came out to visit Jeremy because she is an educator at Parsons and an artist as well,
Cool.
and she made the introduction between us, and then I later invited him to my studio at the time. Um, yeah, and then he said that I think on that meeting there wasn't anything ready. Like literally nothing, or maybe he was working on plumbing. Um, and then he said that it would be ready at the end of the summer of 2021. And I think I applied for the residency sometime in July of last year, and he let me come do it, and I'm so grateful.
We were glad to have you. You're the first one to sign for podcast and the first resident, so you're always first somehow. You were the first one to sign up, and you signed up for the first available slot. So it's just one across the
Crazy.
board. I don't even can't believe it.
Well, I'm glad
Um,
that my completely open schedule let me do this.
well, it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, I guess.
So I'd like to ask you another question about Mom's house.
Sure.
What was one of your favorite memories or things that you did while you were here?
I think I have too many, and because I stayed there for a really long time.
How
Um,
long did you stay?
uh, Again, it feels like years, but I think it was a total of like 3 to 4 weeks,
Oh
something
wow, you
like
did
that.
the full residency period.
Yeah. Um, I mean, it was like I had always lived there, you know?
I feel yeah, it's
Like
pretty cool.
somehow when after you stay, I think um that's how I like get into this state of like total vulnerability, um where I just surrender and like stop thinking about the outside world and everything that's going on, and just focus on making art like all day every day. um and by the end of it, I really didn't want to leave and, go back outside. Um, so yeah, it was really difficult to leave.
Understandable. I when I was in Philadelphia past, I guess from 2019, like a year before COVID, until or 2018 until 2021, right around when the residency everything started, is when I left.
Mm.
But every time I came back to visit, I'd be like, wow, this is. I had to go back to the life of Philadelphia, and it's
Oh
just so much
God.
easier to like be creative over here rather
Yeah,
than in
it
the city for
is.
me. I
It
feel like there's
is. It
too
really
much
is.
distractions, and then
Well,
there's
yeah,
always something to do.
you just become hyper aware. Like, I think when you're on the residency, and especially in a place like Ma's house, you're hyper aware of time passing and of nature and like the daily sunrise and the chirping of the birds and the wild deer that are passing by, and like every little movement affects you, and affects the work. And once you leave, you have to put up your armor, just so that you're not distracted by everything, like the cars or people on the street or what you have to do, or like, endless tasks and errands. um so yeah, it was a privilege to be in that space for that amount of time.
You said you were in Manhattan before COVID, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of people on the street, from my own experience, they are the biggest way to be distracted. Whether they
I
just
know,
out
I
there starts
know.
yelling, or someone's just doing something insane. Even the people in the cars are distracting. Like
I know,
here,
yeah.
people are getting cars are getting hit. Oh, now we can't concentrate because the beeping won't
Hmm.
stop. Just
Just
and
the
then
daily like stimulation that you get from being outside, that you have to filter out, um and that you have to calm yourself for, like, yeah, as a woman also, and as an Asian woman now, like in the height of COVID hysteria, um I also had that layer of like needing to guard myself against, I don't know, like either physical or emotional or verbal attacks, you know?
Hmm.
And that's just so tiring.
Yeah.
Like, I'd much rather just stay at home and draw, you know, like, and order
Right.
everything.
Right. People were not very kind to Asian Americans during the beginning of COVID. People were so uninformed. It was actually insane what people were doing back then. Even now, it's still kind of
Yeah. It's
unequally
not insane
distributed.
though, unfortunately, because, you know, we had that president who was stoking those fears, and then everyone wants to scapegoat and stoke fear because fear is like the easiest emotion and the quickest
Hmm.
to transmute. Mm.
I agree. That was a
Yeah.
rough time. Well, I'm glad you're able to come down because that was definitely helps as an escape being at Ma's house. It is definitely a safe
Oh,
space.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it was so different from upstate also because I had never stayed upstate for that long, and I was just going by Airbnb houses, like, not knowing any of the towns before, and some of the towns seemed like, you know, deep Trump County, like, there were Trump flags all over the houses, and, you know, I just didn't feel safe,
Yeah.
but I didn't know where else to go in the woods, so I just stayed inside the house.
Yeah. How far upstate did you go?
Um, oh, I think Hudson,
Were you in
uh,
Westchester?
no, I was far more north than that. Like, Hudson was probably the most place that I stayed in,
Oh,
and
were you by
and
the river by
everyone.
any chance? Sorry, cut you off.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I stayed in really random places for far too long, where I mean, I tried to engage with the local artistic community by, like, joining a ceramic studio, and painting and things, but it's difficult as, like, a single person during COVID to,
Hmm.
like, especially being Asian again, to make new friends in an area where I've never been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a long time since I had to make a new group of friends.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it's crazy.
been years for me. Um. So, has painting always been your favorite art medium, or was there something else when you were younger?
Prior to painting, I was really serious about piano.
Oh, cool.
Um, from the ages of 7 to 14, I was like a competitive pianist.
Wow.
Um, so Western European Baroque instilled in me. um, yeah, and I think only recently have I understood how deeply uh, classical music um, was encoded in the way I viewed the world, I guess,
Hmm.
and how much of Western classical music was also a way for the composers to communicate their love for Jesus.
Oh,
Like, it was
I never knew
actually
that.
very Christian. Yeah, like Bach, he he was a composer for the Lutheran Church, and he had to make a new composition every week.
What?
Um,
Wow.
he lived above the church, and you know had like 20 children, so he had a lot of mouths to feed.
Wow. What? I had no idea about that situation for him. Um,
Yeah,
I wish we had more musicians coming down to do residencies, but we don't have like a stage or anything. I would like to talk
Mm.
to Jerry about that because there is an open call going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe there could be, it would take a lot of, um,
Open call for musicians
it's for
specifically?
in general for everybody, honestly, any type of
Um,
artists. But I would love to find a some sort of musician to come down, even if it's local, to do a
there
show or something.
there are so many musicians in Manhattan,
There aren't. One of
and
my
they're all going to really good schools too, like the Manhattan College of Music or Juilliard. I don't know what they do if they don't become professional musicians though.
neither do I was wondering about that.
They
I was wondering
just
about that the other
disappear
day.
into the
Yeah,
mist.
they just pack up the violin for a little while and break it out at nice at house parties just to wow
Yeah.
everyone. I mean, it would impress me. I can't even imagine just having having a drink with someone and then they just break out some instrument and they're the best player I've ever heard.
Oh my
It's like a
god.
party
But
trick.
people do that for when they know I know how to play piano, but like I know what I know how to play would totally ruin the vibe, and it's just nobody wants to hear like sad nocturnes or like an angry Rachmaninoff or, choral fugues in the middle of a party. People think I'm being coy, but like it's for their own good.
Good. And honestly, on my way here, I was listening to a hip hop song that had taken a classical music sample, and I
Oh,
just discovered it like 2 days ago, and I
what
was
is
like,
it?
oh my god. So let me just grab my phone here. It was called. So I actually went ahead and looked up the instrumental because I was like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
But it's called "Just Say That" by Duke Deuce, and the instrumental. It's I recognize what the the song is, but I don't know it by name, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like 6 chords. They're just taking the bare minimum from it and then adding a drum loop.
Hmm.
And for some reason, it doesn't. And when I listened to the first one, I was like, "This doesn't make any sense. Why are they using this one part?" And then I listened to the whole song, and I was like, "This is awesome. I love this." So I've listened to it like 8 times in the past 3 days. Just I was driving down here
Hmm.
back to Southampton 2 nights ago. I listened to it at least 4 times on the ride because I just could not get enough of that song,
Well,
especially the beat.
I have to look that up right after our interview finishes.
Yeah, hopefully you like it. Honestly, it's probably a
Duke
glimpse into the
Deuce?
weird. Yeah, I never heard of him before either. Um, it was I would always listen to new music. I have a bunch of friends who do like the current pop, which is just hip hop and rap. And I was
Mhm.
listening to a couple of them have put out some new songs, so I was just going through my release radar on Spotify,
Mm.
and that came up out of nowhere, and I was like, and I heard the 4 chords, like, oh my god, is this a classical song? What is going on? And then they started going in, so I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Um,
I love how rap samples, or not just rap, but um, maybe most notably rap definitely samples from other genres of music. Um, like, do you know that song "Big Pimpin" by Jay-Z?
of course, I think I have that song on vinyl somewhere.
Yeah, the opening flute melody, do 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 do. That actually comes from an Egyptian song, and I think the composer of it sued Jay Z for using it without his permission, but
Oh boy,
obviously didn't win. But
yeah. Sometimes when you, as a hip hop artist, you just have to say screw it and just use it anyway, and then deal with repercussions later because it is really hard to clear samples sometimes, especially for the big
yeah,
names. I
right.
did not know about that about Jay Z. There's a website
Yeah.
out there that you can type in a song name, or
Mm-hmm.
you can type in the sample name, and it will show you every person that's used sample from that song. So like producers
Mm-hmm.
will go ahead and they'll be like, "Oh, I found." They call it the golden sample like, oh, I can't wait to make a flip of this, which is just sample it and do whatever they want to do. But they'll
Interesting.
always go first into that website, and if they see
Oh,
like, oh, 30 people have used it, oh great, this is the most famous song I've ever heard right here. And then so they had the tool, useful tool, I've discovered from my artist friends. I'm very into to music nowadays. Music honestly is my I love inspiration for me to create art. Even though I don't make music, I get inspired by it.
yeah, music is the best. I mean,
I
it's
agree.
so immediate because everyone can like hear it and feel emotions, you know, immediately. Like they don't have to look at something and then to themselves like, what is this? You know?
Hmm. It's a great form of communication. Music, even if
Yeah.
there's no lyrics, you can still
Mm-hmm.
tell what's going on. And for me, I really like well, not really like, but I'm a videographer and I want to be a director and stuff. So every time I hear a
Mm-hmm.
song that I'm like, I was at a concert on Saturday, and one of the artists, so it was a rock and roll concert, and one of the artists just released a new album, and they switched from metal music to like this kind of like whale song music, and the people that put it on did not know that. So I was listening to it, and I thought to myself, I always whenever I listen to songs, I'm like, what would I use this for? And I was like, you know what? I don't really love this song. I just listen to it now, but it'd be the perfect for a death scene of in some movie. Like, it was just, like at a funeral scene, this would be perfect. They had two violinists and an electric guitar, and then
Yes.
in there it was three women, and then they would no lyrics really. It was just like hums for the vocals. So
Mm,
it was honestly pictured like a, a Marvel movie. It was perfect for a Marvel movie death scene. Perfect. Which sounds like a diss, but it's not. Everyone needs music for movies. It's very important.
everyone needs music or music for their for scenes in their own lives too. Like, um, I've often joked that for my funeral, people should play Beck's "Loser." Do you know that song?
Yes, I do.
It would just be funny, like to have that on a loop. Like,
The entire time.
I'm a loser, baby. So why don't you kill me?
I think half the people would be horrified and half the people would be like jamming out dancing. Um,
Yeah. Wouldn't you want your funeral to be a happy, fun time?
I do.
Yeah.
And my mom, she when I was much younger, she came back. She was like, Hunter, I'm going to a class. She like went to some class. And she came back and was like, I'm gonna put the fun back in funeral. It was like a fun back in funeral class. And I was like, what are you talking about? The fun back in funeral. I didn't understand it then. But now
Wait,
that
is
I've
she an
been to see it,
undertaker or mortician?
she is not. She honestly, she's just interested in um that realm,
Mm.
honestly. She's a psychologist major, so she had
Oh.
went back and got her master's.
Mm-hmm.
So and that was like around that time. I think it was either right before she decided to go back to school and do that, or right after. Honestly, it's a little hazy back because that was when I was pretty young. Um, must have been like 10. But I just remember her coming home and being like, "Yep, time to put the fun back in funerals." So now I tell her that now she we like discuss like, "Oh, what do you want to do at your funeral? Do you want it to be fun?" So we always come up with like try to come up with good plans for if anyone in the immediate family happens
Okay,
to
mine
pass
will
away.
definitely have a bounce castle and a ball pit, and yeah, it would be like the best birthday party ever.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it sounds like a nice party, honestly. And then and Is it going to be invite only, or can anyone show up and appreciate the bounce castle?
Well, there should be a limit because you don't want it to deflate or get popped.
I mean, not everyone can be on at the same time, but
Yeah,
if what if
exactly.
like we take turns, like if 1,000 people
Sure,
lined
yeah,
up,
yeah, yeah. It depends on the size, of course.
would the service be taking place in the bounce castle as well? Would like
Ooh,
everyone,
that's a
someone
great
wants to,
idea.
they have to be bouncing on the castle?
But no food or drink allowed while in the castle.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's gross. Or it would be gross.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what happened. Just one spill and everyone's
Yeah.
fun is ruined.
It ruins it for everyone.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But unless you had also put in put money aside to hire someone to make sure the bounce house is clean after every use, and so
But
then people
then
could bring drinks on there.
no.
Um,
You don't want people to splash themselves with their own drinks.
I guess I thought this was a party. It's gonna be drink smashing anyway.
Oh, good point. It isn't a party until someone spills
Yeah,
a drink on themselves or others.
exactly. Then it's a true celebration of life and death.
It really is.
I don't know what I'm gonna do for mine yet. Okay, well, speaking of death, I guess this is a good time for my for this kind of more open-ended question. Do you believe in ghosts or spirits? And if so, do you have a paranormal activity story?
Oh my goodness. Um, I don't know what there is to believe. I mean, they exist. So,
Hmm.
I think they're everywhere. Yeah, and like in Chinese superstition, you know, like something as simple as feng shui, which is like making sure you don't have the wrong color or object in areas of your house. Um, that dates back centuries. So, uh, spirituality has always been deeply embedded in Chinese culture, and you don't want to upset the spirits, right? So,
Agreed.
but at the same time, I feel like you're always upsetting them, like with whatever you're thinking or doing. Um, especially in uh, Christianity, like whatever
Those
you
spirits are
say.
scary.
Oh yeah, those are definitely scary. Um, and there's so that leads you down a path of temptation to hell, basically.
Yeah.
uh, wait, where was I going with this? Um, do I have any specific
Yeah. Have
paranormal?
anything has anything happened to you? Have you ever seen one?
I don't know.
Well,
What about
I will say,
you?
um, a bunch of times, honestly.
Oh my
The most
gosh.
recent one,
Tell me about yours.
the most recent one. So I've seen them a lot, like throughout my life, but the last one happened actually happened on April Fool's Day. I got April fooled by a ghost in the middle of the night. It was so
Oh my
strange.
god.
You know, in movies when people they like fall asleep and have like a dream and then they wake up, they're like, "Oh, thank God I'm done." And then something bad
Yeah.
happens again, and then they wake up actually. So that's never happened to me. I don't believe that that's actually a thing. Like you can't wake up from a dream and then have another dream. It's like
Why
I don't
why
know,
don't you
Inception.
believe?
Because I don't know. I dream a lot, and that's. I mean, I just never experienced that. But personally, I've never experienced that. So this is why I know that this one happened to me. So it was April, um, April 1st, April Fool's Day. So I guess it was March 30th. I went to sleep to wake up on April Fool's Day, and I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I looked up, and there was like a ghost above me, just like looking
Oh my
down,
god.
and it was just an old person, and they had a green hat on, and so like I've been dealing with spirits all my life. I know that they never bother me. I know not to bother them. They just do their own thing, and they'll like look at me sometimes.
What kind of
And
hat was it?
um, it wasn't a bucket hat. It was kind of like an old timey hat, like something a golfer would have worn in like the 1940s. It feels like.
Huh.
I don't know how to describe it, but they didn't have legs. It was kind of like a squig, like a just upper body appearance. And so I
Whoa.
woke up, I stared right at them, and in my head, I spoke to them. I was like, "Come on, not now. It's 3 a.m. Are you?" And
Come back in
yeah,
five
come back
hours.
later. Yeah. So they looked at me again, and I just stared at them, and I was like, "You have to leave." So I picked up my foot and I like put my foot through it. I went to kick it, and it just went right through.
Wow.
So I was just like, "What the heck?" And I think that they got the message, and they just floated above me right out my window, and then um, I went back to sleep. I was like, "Oh, I'm not dealing with this right now." Yes, and that was on April Fool's Day, so they had April Fooled me, which I thought was very strange for a ghost to take part of April Fool's Day. I don't know who it was, but yes, I know. And to the listeners out there, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it did happen to me. And it's not the first time I've had to
Can
deal
you
with
can you
a
feel
ghost.
when a ghost is like uh malicious or loving or happy or
Um, I don't really know of any actually malicious ghosts, unless in my life at least. I'm sure there are people that um are spirits that are angry and are stuck here, but I think it seems that most of them came back on their own will to just like check out what's going on, like watch us. Like when
they're
I was
probably
really young, there used to be
bored.
a ghost on the stairs, and
Oh.
my mom said that there was a ghost of a woman in the house, and she used to hang out in my room when I was a baby, and every time I cried, um, my mom would be like, "Can you please stop him from crying?" But then she would just leave the room. She'd be like, "I don't want to hear this kid cry." So they usually just hang out, and as long as you're not mean to them, they'll leave you alone, not do anything mean. Um, but
Hmm.
I cannot feel their intent. Like that ghost from the other night. I think he was in my head. He was April fooling me. Maybe he was trying to scare me, but I was too used to the ghost being around. Yeah. So those are some of my. I'm gonna ask every alumni that
Everyone.
question.
Oh
Yeah,
my god.
I want to know. Everyone on the alumni circuit, you better have some ghost stories ready. Um, and I'm excited to hear someone that doesn't believe and what their point of view is. Because
What? I don't think you would find one.
be surprised. I know a lot of people. I mean, honestly, people who don't believe in spirits usually don't believe in like.
Art?
No, I know a lot of artists that are like atheists, and they are just like, there's nothing. And since it's like hard to come up with proof besides like me seeing a ghost, and now they just have to believe me. I'm like, yeah, it happened. Like, yeah, okay, kid, great, it sure did. I'm sure you saw that ghost in the middle of the night. He April fooled you. Good job, Hunter. Great story.
I
So
don't know. It's as believable as anything else.
true. I guess I don't know. For some people, it definitely they just don't. I feel like they just don't want to. Like it's can be a scary
Yeah.
idea that there's something.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Like there's probably something in Ma's house. Someone. If it's not Ma, it's somebody.
Well, I hope it's Ma.
Yeah, could be any
I
of the our ancestors.
That's
Could
true.
they just want to? And I think they just like when we're doing something they don't want to see, they just look away. They're like, you know what, just do what you got to do. You know, they try not to bother us.
Live and
Um,
let live,
yeah,
or
yeah,
haunt and let live.
yeah. Haunt. They only haunt us when it's good for both of us. Oh, so what is like your biggest inspiration for making art. We're segueing back into real questions that are about art and whatnot.
My my inspiration. I guess it's like this sort of childish concept of utopia, um, and harmony. Um, yeah, like no death, no pain, no disease.
Hmm. That's very interesting. That's the first time I ever heard of that type of inspiration. How do you think that reflects in your art?
Mm, um, I guess it like forces me to focus completely on what's happening like on the page in front of me. It's sort of like, when a kid is playing and you don't know their rules and you don't know the game they're playing, but
Hmm.
to them it's the most important thing, on earth, and they have to get it right, otherwise the world ends. It's like that sort of devotion, um, and concentration.
Well, that's a great way to describe it. Hmm. So think about. Okay, so where do you see your art taking you, and what is your dream?
um Realistically, or
Um, you know what? We'll shoot for the what's that quote? It's like shoot for the moon, you land at the stars.
yeah, but
I
that's
never
so
liked that quote.
ridiculous because stars are,
Yeah, they're way further away, right? I always hated that quote. I was like, well, it doesn't make any sense. I'll shoot for the stars and maybe land at the moon. That's what they should be saying.
let's see. I dream that my art will take me. um I don't know. I feel like I already am where I always dreamed of being. And yeah, that's it.
You know that song "I Wonder" by Kanye West. It's about like being in your dream. I was waiting. I've been waited a long time to like listen to it while I was living my dream. So
Hmm.
it hits different when it's you're living your dream at the time. Um, so these are the last couple things. So make sure you went through everything. Okay. So we'll try. We're getting running not long, but we're near about the 40-minute mark. So if we can keep it for this next one. If you have any questions for me, want to know anything about me, say you can ask one. We could probably fit in two. I noticed last time someone asked me a question, I just kept going on and on about seltzer because how much I love it. They're like, "What's one thing you love?" I was like, "Oh, you got to
Well,
hear
who
about the
doesn't
seltzer."
love seltzer?
I know.
Like,
I'm
what kind of
drinking
a
one right now.
monster? What kind of a monster would you have to be if you didn't love seltzer?
Someone I wouldn't want to meet. Same with garlic. If you don't
Exactly,
love garlic,
same.
it's a little dangerous. So I judge people.
Um,
Seltzer and garlic.
so are you a resident at Ma's house?
Um, I guess I'm on the staff now. I'm
Oh,
not
cool.
sure if you heard, but Ma's house. Um, we applied for the CRNY Creators Build New York grant,
Mm-hmm.
which is like New York post COVID was like our artists are struggling. So they said any artists that want to partner up with a nonprofit can get together and then like send us. We get to do all these interviews and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So and we actually got it. with I think
Nice.
98 other organizations. We actually just had a meeting today earlier at 12, just like a check-in with them. So we started that in July, but now so they gave Mom's House like a lump sum to help us with projects and renovate like space for the artists and fund
Nice.
us. So me, my aunt Denise, and Jeremy's partner Brianna, who's also the curator here,
Mm-hmm.
we all partnered up and now kind of work like full time, and so we all have like money coming in from New York State now to continue our art and um, do things for the community here.
It's
But
awesome.
at the end of I haven't even told Jeremy, but at the end of this, part of my thing is I have to work on my own art. So this is
Mm-hmm.
a 2 year contract basically. So it'll be probably set for 2 years. But at the end of 2 years, I want to do my own residency for just like a week or two and like finish up my project that I was working on for the past 2 years. That in the future, so like that I'm working on now. Then I'll do like a movie premiere. So hopefully in the future I can be a
Oh,
resident. That'd be cool.
cool.
Yeah. Do you have anything else, or should we move on to the last part of the podcast?
Oh, I didn't realize there was another part, but sure, let's move on.
Oh well, the last part is just um now is kind of an opportunity for you to plug your social media, your website. Say go
Oh,
check out like your shop, your friend's shop. So you have a couple this is your time to just say whatever you want to say, tell people about stuff.
well, I don't really have a shop yet, but I do have gallerists who represent my work. Um, so I've been working on a line of clothing uh, that comprises of athleisure and dresses and things like that, um, called Cloud Poetry. And it's not ready to be shoppable yet, but the Instagram is at cloud.poetry. And then my personal Instagram is at yes, it's Yanyan. Um, so yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. I'll be sure to put a link to all those into the description of the podcast. Um, anyone listening, please go check that out. Um, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Yan Yan. It was great.
Thank
I had a lot of
you.
fun.
This was fun.
Thanks. Yeah. So this was episode 2, Mom's House podcast, the beginning of what I'm calling the alumni resident circuit. So we're going to be interviewing or attempting to interview every artist resident we've had the past year, and then the episodes will be coming out much faster, probably every week or week and a half. We have about 8 or 9 already signed up to do this month. Um, yeah, I would like to thank you again. And
Thank you.
yeah, this was the Monsters Podcast. I'm Hunter Begun. It's Yanyan Huang, and we'll catch you guys next time.